All right, welcome back everybody to another new episode of A Whole New World, where we're here to put a positive spotlight on things happening in the neighborhood and developing that positive mindset. So, as always, I am your host, Jacob New, and before we get any further into the episode, it is time for our infamous dad joke of the week. And the crowd goes wild. So, here it is. When is a door not a door? When it's a jar. Get it when you leave it slightly open? Oh, it makes more sense when you see the spelling. But we are very fortunate today to have with us on the show Matt. With Matt, the co-founder of Jobbertunity, to talk with us about his startup, Jobbertunity. So, thanks for being on the show, Matt.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, this is our very first COVID edition of the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've definitely been using this format to communicate with people more often in the last few weeks than ever before. So.
Yeah, I feel like there's many people out there that are, by the end of this, going to be like, I'm an expert on Zoom. Psh, I got this. You know? So this month we are focusing on happiness. And so, Matt, I want to know, what is happiness to you, and has that changed in your life?
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes, I don't know, peanut butter ice cream and my kids, but it's a short answer. But more of a deeper answer maybe is thinking about how it's changed. When I was younger, I think it had a lot to do with some external validation, whether you got a trophy or you graduated and got a certificate or praise. As you get older and kind of know who you are and you have your sense of identity, that external validation is less important maybe. And a lot of my happiness comes from relationships, meaningful relationships, whether that's family or close friends or coworkers, or people in, the community that we're doing something together that's meaningful. And now, especially with what I'm trying to do with this startup, and my life in general, is to focus on things that have a purpose, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes that's not the same kind of happiness as the peanut butter ice cream, right? Like,
yeah. That's a whole nother level of happiness.
Well, you're a teacher, right? So not everything you do as part of teaching is fun.
Oh yeah, no.
But when you believe in the purpose of what you're doing and you feel like you're creating a contribution to society, there's a deper sense of joy.
Yes. It's a different type of joy. Yeah, like you said, deeper. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you just want to make me smile, peanut butter ice cream. But really, it's saying what I'm doing with my time has meaning, and it has meaning for other people that I care about.
Yeah, no, I like that, and especially like how you talked about almost like the materialistic happiness, and so I'm curious, how was it that you kind of made what caused you to start making that transition from like that materialistic transition towards that being around other people, like I'm a happy person, I don't need things necessarily. Well, besides peanut butter ice cream,
Yeah, no, I mean I'm trying to come up with a short answer to that question.
A short, long answer, whichever,
I'll give you the medium answer. I think I just turned 39, right? So I'm kind of like approaching 40, middle age. And I think by the time people get to about this age in life, it's unlikely that you haven't had some sort of dark night of the soul experience, right? Whether that was self-induced or caused by a relationship falling apart or a major illness or an accident or being laid off or something, right?
Yeah.
a divorce. I don't know. It's hard to get this far without some spot where you really have to kind of take a look and figure out who you really are. And, for me, somewhere in my 20s, I didn't like what I saw with someone when I looked at who I was, and had to stay in that space for a while and be honest about it, and then say, well, I need to become a person that I like, that I want to be.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the foundation. I mean, I think a lot of the fruits of happiness and those positive relationships come out of, doing that inside work, that spiritual work on getting right with God and yourself. And so I think that's where that shift came, but it's not like that happens once, not like
yeah.
There's usually a couple like points where you say, oh yeah, things change there when you look back, but it's really a continuous process. This is totally unrelated to kind of where we were going to talk, but I've been going on, which I would have been there now, except that we're on shelter in place.
Yeah.
But for the last 5 years, I've been going out to the woods for a week of silent prayer by myself.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I recenter and quiet all the noise down enough to remember what's really important.
Yeah. So, and what is really important to you when you go and you do the meditation, which I love? And the more I talk to people, I found that a lot of the happy people, they do some kind of a meditation or getting away and taking away the noise, like you said. But so do you mind sharing a couple things that when you do that, like what do you find is like true happiness that when you do that?
Well, so typically part of the thing is I'm not particularly good at routine. Right?
Yeah.
So like a lot of people are like, I get up and I do yoga and I meditate every day. That's not who I am. I had a buddy who's like, you need a philosophy of time management. But when I do go out, I fast, which is something I'd never done up until a few years ago. And part of it is just, it takes me a couple days of wandering around in the woods just to actually calm down and really get centered. But I'll give you a specific experience, because I also one of the things I do is I read all the Gospels in the New Testament in a row while I'm out there not eating.
Okay.
Because the first time I went out, I was like, I really want to go speak with the Lord and have that personal relationship and that conversation. And my question in my heart was, well, how do I know what's from the Lord, right? And I felt like I got this message that said, well, read my Gospels, and so you'll know what my voice sounds like. So when I start talking, if it sounds like that, you'll know it's me, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you're not Christian, I'm not trying to preach to you or whatever. That's just sort of my faith journey is there. And so that really works for me. So like once I'm there, then I feel like I can get some discernment. And like one of the things a few years back when I was debating about starting this company specifically, and I was debating whether I was going to leave my day job, which is really scary, right?
Yeah.
Because it was a good job, right? I liked it. I had it was a good career. I had a future there. I made the best money I ever made in my life. And
that's nice.
I was literally going to walk away from that to do this thing, but I don't know if it's going to work, right? So,
yeah.
So I remember praying about that, and the answer to my prayer was interesting. Essentially, I felt like what I heard from God was, I don't really care. Like, what?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Come again?
God was like, I don't care if you work for somebody else or if you run your own company, right?
Yeah.
That's not actually my field of concern. And I was like, well, that's not helping my relationship.
So is that a yes?
The follow-up answer was, if you remember who your boss is, and in that context, like if you remember
him, yeah,
me and the right thing, then I'll open doors for you. And so I took that as, well, okay, well, I'm going to make this decision on my own, but as long as I continue to focus on what's actually important in the world and what's important in my life and faith, then the rest of it will work itself out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's so many things that I like and that I applaud you for, just going out fasting and reading and seeking out that connection. I myself am a Christian as well, and I must say I don't think ever talking to anybody I've never heard that response before, and it's kind of like, oh, well that must be kind of like a relief at the same time, where like, hey, I'm here for you. I want you to make the choices, kind of a thing, But that's awesome. And how often do you do this? Like you said, is it just once a year?
The funny story, the background on this was, when I was in my 20s, I was an AmeriCorps member.
Okay.
I worked in schools, and we did all kinds of stuff in schools, tutoring and college prep and community service, and we had corporate sponsorships as well. So like kind of like a race car had Sunoco on it. So one of our sponsors was David's Bridal.
Okay.
So, which was cool because we worked in high school, so we did like prom fashion shows and made surprise dresses and stuff for it, which raised money for inner city schools that we used to like fund real programs. So it was all really cool.
Yeah.
But one of the corporate sponsors, David's Bridal, their head of leadership, John Fontana, was sort of our liaison with the corporation. And we were having dinner. And at this point, I think I was the manager. So I was managing a few teams. And we were just talking. And it turns out, before he was a corporate leadership guy, sometime in his 20s, he wasn't sure. And he thought about being a priest. And he had actually gone through the entire Jesuit orders process before he pulled out right at the end and didn't actually become a priest. But he had went through divinity school and all that.
Oh wow!
and part of the Jesuit orders process is they do 6 weeks of silence in this thing. And I was this young 20-year-old guy who was like, "That's amazing! Like I wish I could do something like that." And he looked at me and went, "That'd be wasted on you. Wait till you're 35 and then go do it." And for whatever reason, that stuck in my head that when I'm 35, I'm going to go. I'm going to pray. So, 20-something-year-old me who wasn't married to my wife, and I didn't have kids, but I got this thing stuck in my head. And so when I was 34, coming up on 35, I talked to my wife. We had young kids, real young kids at the time. And I was like, hey, I feel like I really need to go out to the wilderness and fast for a week. I've sort of been planning this for 15 years or so. You okay with that? And she was kind of oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I did. And it was a beautiful experience. It was a hard experience in a lot of ways. There was a lot of healing. It brought up a lot of stuff in me. And, but I did it that one time, and I thought that was it. And it was coming back about a year, coming up a month or so before my birthday again the next year. And my wife, Jane, looked at me and goes, "Are you going to go on retreat again?" And I was like, "Do I have permission from my partner in raising young children to leave you for a week and go to the woods again?" She's like, "It was really good for you. I think you should do it again. I think it was good for us." And so I've been doing it every year ever since.
Okay.
Up until now, because, state parks are shut down to camping. So
yeah.
I was going to be in Big Bend this week. But I am here.
That is nice. And I haven't been to Big Bend yet, but I've heard it's really, really pretty. So
it is incredible.
Yeah.
It is
man, and so And you've
So I
been,
totally recommend fasting and prayer to anybody who wants to try it. It really can't hurt.
yeah.
Worst case scenario, you're quiet for a few days and you go back home. But
Yeah, and I I like that even the next year your wife had noticed such a big difference in you two that she pretty much was like, go again. Like, and that's awesome. And I think that speaks volumes to um, how important it is to make sure that we take time for ourselves and uh, be in communication with God and just kind of reflect. And I mean, I'm not sure what you talked about, but I would imagine like who do I want to be? Who do I aspire to be in like 5 years, 10 years? Um, do I like who I am right now? Kind of questions, which can be tough questions to answer, you know? So, um, and man, talking about your family though, how have they been doing? How have they been handling with the COVID? What have you guys? Have you guys been keeping happy? And what have you guys been occupying your time?
well, so my kids are real little, so it's a constant reminder,
Uh-huh.
and their interpretation of things isn't quite nuanced, but it's good enough, right? So, like, we had to get pet food, so we went to the pet store, but
Yeah.
you know, the pet store is a place the kids really like to go, so that was like normally the thing we did. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you're staying in the car. Mommy's going in with her mask and her gloves on
Yeah.
to go buy pet food. And then we were leaving, and they're like, oh, why? We don't have coronavirus. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yep, and that's why you're staying in the car. So, but honestly, it's weird. So I want to talk about this with some sensitivity,
Mm-hmm.
but also be practical about it, right? So, like, we're talking about meditation or perspective or things that are important. And there's a temptation almost to be like, well, if I could just be real prayerful about this, then everything's okay. It's in the hands of God. I'm just not going to worry about it. And that's not realistic, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if you haven't felt a direct effect yet and you're coping pretty well, like, there's some level of anxiety around this
Mm-hmm.
that everyone's feeling, right? Like, you can't not have some amount of anxiety.
Oh
It
yeah.
would be weird. Probably an indication of mental illness. Right? So, like, my parents are fine, but they're old. And, like, my mom was going to be visiting, and she's not. We're not putting her on an airplane. She's 75. And,
Ooh.
I broke down the other day kind of in tears because I realized that I had this sort of unspoken fear that I'm never going to see my mom again, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not half the virus. She's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's that
but
thought of what if.
it's a lot of what if, and it's like, even if you know somebody who had somebody else that got sick, so I know somebody who knows somebody who had coronavirus, or I know somebody who knows somebody whose mom died, not of coronavirus, but they're still dealing with a Zoom funeral or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Just the natural empathy goes out to them in saying, hey, I feel for you, but it's also going to run some anxiety of your own personal connections and fears, right? So it's real. And that manifests differently in adults, and it manifests differently for kids. So the kids are a little angsty, but they're doing pretty good with it. We take bike rides about 6 times a day if it's not raining.
Okay. Yeah.
Pretty much, like, every time it's like, oh, okay, focus is gone, we can't concentrate, we just elbow room, go ride around the block on your bike. But in other ways, the reason I wanted to preface it with being conscious of the fact that this is really hard for some people, especially if you are in a vulnerable population. Like, I have some friends that have sort of autoimmune stuff, and it's this is a nightmare situation for them, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's not like they haven't been living with anxiety about health before this. So in some ways, they're even more prepared for it because they're like, yeah, like I'm always worried about this.
Yeah. I've always had no contact delivery, like.
Yeah. So I want to recognize that, but at the other hand, there are opportunities here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we are spending way more time with our kids, and that's great.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard, but it's good. And speaking of joy, like I'm actually getting like all these moments of joy that normally wouldn't have because they'd be at school and we'd be doing stuff, and so it's been a blessing in some ways, with the family time. The uncertainty about economy and financial stuff is real.
Yeah.
I think that is, depending on the person, maybe equally to the fear of disease, right? The fear of financial distress. It's quite frightening. But in a way, what I've been doing, again, like I left my day job with the secure income to go pursue this other thing. And I've been stitching together side hustle stuff for a while. And, I'd rebuilt some houses so we have a little bit of passive income off real estate. But even with that, like we had to contact our tenants and be like, hey, you still have a job, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not necessarily secure either, right?
Yeah.
And had to make some allowances in a few cases with that. But I think entrepreneurship is good in a lot of ways, but I think it's good in terms of a mindset. A lot of times when we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about risk and people that are like risk takers. And a lot of entrepreneurs think that's incorrect. Entrepreneurs say, we just are looking at risk differently.
Yeah.
Not that we're willing to take more, but, you could say that, this is going to sound insensitive to people that are feeling it right now, but you could say, hey, there's a risk of being an employee, right? Your company's industry can get disrupted or stuff like this can happen. And then all of a sudden, that balance sheet is different and who gets cut, right? So it's even just having a day job isn't without risk. Excuse me. I can't believe I got to do this. But I just got my low battery one. So I need to plug in my phone here.
Hey, man,
So
these are all problems that we have with COVID, so,
Yeah, so, okay, I think we're going to be okay. And that really messed up my
So, but no, while you're doing that, I mean...
My office has a window, and that's something that I very much appreciate.
Yeah.
But it was also blinding us.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I think the skill set of entrepreneurship, one of the skill sets is the ability to be comfortable with uncertainty and manage multiple possible futures, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that mindset is something that can be applied to a situation like this. So it doesn't mean that you don't have anxiety and there aren't real consequences and real risks, but you're looking at a situation and going, hey, well, we don't know. And from what we do know, we can do a few things and we can set some stuff up for various possibilities. But also you start to look for, well, what's the advantage of this situation? May not be ideal, but what can I do with this? And so, doing some stuff with our kids' education is something that we are doing more of because we have that opportunity. We are doing some of the business stuff that we were going to put on the back burner because we were going to be doing a lot more outreach at this time. I got back we were kind of out for a few days of spring break with the kids. I got back and literally I had 2 months of 2 or 3 places I was going to be every week, right? Scheduled for the next 2-3 months. And it was just like cancellation. It's like, okay, and then entire marketing strategies, throw that out the window.
Yeah.
Right? And that's okay. I mean, it was not the plan, but we'll make a new plan.
Yeah.
So there's some adjustment. But yeah, the kids are doing okay. But I definitely do see them. They miss their friends. They miss their teachers. They miss playgrounds. like we take bike rides, but they're not allowed to touch the slide.
Yeah.
They think that's very fair.
Swing sets and all that. No. And no, and us, well, I can't speak for every teacher, but I know all the teachers that I've been communicated with, like, we just miss being in the classroom. And so to all you parents out there, I am going to say you're doing a great job, and we would love to have your kids back as soon as we can, because we miss being in the classroom and working with the kids, and because that's why we became teachers. And there's something I'm kind of jealous, because you guys now have the opportunity to see when your child, he doesn't understand something maybe, but then all of a sudden it just like clicks, and you're like, oh, those, like, I call them light bulb moments. That's like what we live for. And you've said so many great things about this, and we can't ignore that there's bad going on right now. I mean, people are getting furloughed, people are losing their jobs, tenants aren't able to pay their rent, like you brought up. And so I mean, there is realistic things, and I think when we're talking about being happy, we're not just talking about, I don't mean just like this overall, like everything's fine all the time, da 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 da, you know, kind of, but it's like, okay, there's these bad things, but like you said, where's the good that I can find in it? I'm spending more time with my family, I'm going on more walks, I'm getting a little bit more tan, I mean anything, you know, never and I think that's really what it is. I mean, no matter what situation it is, acknowledge the bad, but then also look for the happiness, look for the good in it. And so, and you brought up several times about your startup. So I am curious. So what exactly is Jobbertunity?
Sure. So Jobbertunity is it's a marketplace, essentially. Mm-hmm. Our whole goal is to lower the barriers of entrepreneurship and to encourage the shop local movement to be made easier. So the essential bit is anybody who signs onto the app can create a profile, and you can play one of three roles, or all three roles, hopefully. You can be a seller, you can be a buyer, or you could kind of play this matchmaker community role. So in the seller role, that makes sense. Like, you get on, you can list your skilled time at an hourly rate or a fixed rate service, and voila, you're in business. So anybody who was looking to do a side hustle and wanted an easy way without having to build a website and all that, it's a great platform to do that. If you're recently laid off or furloughed, now's a great time to start, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that's a little bit weird with the COVID-19 thing is we were really trying to encourage super local business and sort of more high-touch relationships, which is obviously...
High touch is kind of a no-no.
Yeah. But I think the principle is still the same, like the preference for buying in your community, right? And that local multiplier, because when you buy a service from a locally owned business, a lot more of that money not only stays in your community, but those are the people that they have kids in the same school and support the same nonprofit. Like, they care about your space as opposed to
Chili's.
You know, you can order anything on Amazon and there's nothing wrong with that. But you're not getting that added value that the community multipliers have. So there's the seller side. Then there's the buyer side, where you can obviously find people, search, and buy services. What we tried to do is not make it like a lot of other apps where there's two interfaces, like Uber. You have the Uber driver app and then the rider app. It's just one app. So through the same interface, you could both put yourself up in business or just shop
and look for it.
Okay.
So let me make sure I'm understanding this. So if I was a small business, or I could list my business there for people to come and find me for different various goods, and you're focusing more on local businesses?
So we're
correct?
Focused on local. We're focused on services.
Okay.
We may add products in, but there's a little bit of design that we're trying to do to keep quality high.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole idea is so you can actually transact through the platform itself as well. So you can pay through it, they receive money through it. So it's kind of like Airbnb, where let's say, I don't know, maybe you're going to say, I will give you a 2-hour class via Zoom, right?
Yeah.
On how to better homeschool your kids. And you're going to charge $80.
Okay.
And so I hop on Jobbertunity, and right now, everything on the app is sorted by distance. So if we live close to each other, like I'm your neighbor, I live 3 blocks away, I would see you on there, right? And I could say, oh, I could actually use that.
Yeah.
I can click over to Inquire, and it opens a message chat between us. Then we can kind of talk back and forth and go, yeah, that actually works. We can do that next Thursday, 2 to 4. We set a time, a date, and you submit the terms over to me. I say accept and pay. And what it does is it charges my credit card at that point. And we have this appointment. And then when the appointment comes, afterwards it says, hey, write a review, kind of like Airbnb, you write a review.
Yeah.
And then 24 hours after the end time, you get paid. So I pay when I agree to purchase, and then as the seller, you're getting paid when the transaction's complete. And then if something happens in between, you have the ability to reschedule or send a refund if you have to cancel or something like that.
Okay, so it's almost like a big community message board.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, in some ways, it's people are like, well, a lot of questions I got when I first started pitching this idea was like, well, how's that different than like Nextdoor or Facebook or Craigslist, right?
Yeah.
And really, the first model is it's very much like, I used to say it's like Craigslist with an Airbnb front end, because Craigslist works, but there's always this user experience where you kind of think you're going to get axe murdered. Like, every time, even though it doesn't happen most of the time. Like, I have yet to be axe murdered. Like, that wasn't the user experience I wanted to have in the buy local thing. And so, we designed it so there's pictures and there's reviews and there's, a more robust interface. And then like Nextdoor, I was really excited when it first came out because I was like, oh, this is like a really great thing. And for some communities, I think it is, but it just hasn't panned out that way for me. It just seems like it's a great place to post your lost dog.
Yeah.
But like as a platform for business or for even really community building, it just hasn't really landed well for me. And then like, if you look at something like Facebook, part of it was I wanted this to be about supporting entrepreneurs and supporting freelancers and supporting local business people and focus on that. And so I didn't want that to live in the same message feed with angry political rants and lost dog. And So I think there is a place to say, hey, yeah, this is a universal marketplace, but it has a focus. Like when we're on here, we're here because we want to buy local, we want to support local, or I'm trying to get out there as an entrepreneur and I want to reach my local community. And that's what we're doing here. It's not everything else.
No,
so that's what we designed it for. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so it's almost like a side hustler's paradise.
Yeah. So the way I look at it, my core customer to a certain degree is, it's twofold, right? There's somebody who, there's three core customers and then a lot of personal. The core customers is, I think, the new entrepreneur or the small business that's really one person or just within the first few years of getting started, right? Because you're building your reputation. So we wanted to build a platform that allowed you low amount of startup costs to get into business and to be able to build a reputation and capture those positive reviews, right? That positive message.
Yeah.
And then from the buyer side, it's somebody who says, all other things being equal, I want to buy local and I want to know the person that I'm buying from. The personal relationship matters to me. So if you're a person who's like, I actually don't want to interact with other humans and I, just order everything off Amazon. That's okay. There's already a platform for that, right?
Yeah.
If I actually want to know the person who's delivering my services to a degree. Right? Maybe not friends, but so that's sort of our core target there. And then this other role, this matchmaker, is the idea of somebody who's going to go on and they're going to see, hey, somebody put a help wanted for, I need help learning how to homeschool. I know this teacher who just listened to the thing. I'm going to share their link with them. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And so it's all of somebody who's basically seeing something else. I know the person, hey, I can use this app to use the share features in it to connect them. That person, even though they're not the buyer or the seller, they're the heart of kind of why we were building this thing using modern technologies, right? So it's like if you ask for anything, like I need somebody to mow my lawn, I need a piano teacher, right? Whatever. You ask a bunch of friends, they're like, oh yeah, I got a guy, I don't have his number on me, maybe I'll get it later. Like 90% of the time you never actually get the contact.
Yeah.
Right? So if you had this app where you could be like, oh wait, let me just pull my phone out, hit the person in my contacts that I know, and hit share to Jacob, who I know, like you'll actually get the follow through on getting that reference.
Yeah. It like simplifies it. And
yeah.
So is Jobbertunity out already, and can people be accessing this now?
It is.
Okay.
It's, you know, when we met, we were in development and not near the end. But we pushed it out to the Apple Store and the Google Store, the Google Play Store, February 14th.
Okay.
It went out, and I didn't actually know it was going to go out because the stores have a review process, and you never know how long it's going to take. It might take a few days. It might take a week.
Okay.
And usually Apple takes a little longer. And so we pushed it out there, and, you know, I took my wife and my kids, and we went to, there's a bee weavers co-op of honey co-op.
Okay.
And a mead place in Navasota, not far from us. And so we went and did a honey tasting and drank some mead, and we're hanging out. And all of a sudden my phone was popping up, and they're like, hey, your app's live. And I'm like, oh, look at that.
Another round of mead.
yeah. Like, go. Let's make sure it works real quick. So, and we did a real big push right in the beginning in our community, and we got 100 people on in the first week. And then we started getting some feedback, and honestly, we found some bugs, right? It's software.
Yeah.
It's new. So we've done multiple updates since then, and I know that's tough on the early adopters to kind of be like, it's updating. But it's stable now, which is great.
That is good.
We just recently kind of did the last round for all the basic features, saying, okay, there's a few things we're going to change, but it won't affect anybody who's actually using it. Like it'll tweak some things, but it won't mess up anything that works. So yeah, the payment stuff works right now. You can list right now. We basically got some feedback from people and found out that we could simplify a few processes. So that's what we're working on right now is finding ways to make things even a little easier to use. But it's up and running.
Yeah.
And again, like I was saying earlier, the plan was about a week or two ago to start shouting from the rooftops and going to events and shaking hands and handing out flyers.
Yeah.
We can't do any of those things. So, we're now kind of on a social media push. So I guess the thing is, you're in Dallas, right? You're in the Dallas Fort Worth area.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a marketplace, I guess the disappointing thing is, like, if you log on right now, there might be, like, I actually know there's some people in, like, Sherman and Denton on there, but they would be, like, the closest other people to you. So it's not, like, this idea of all your neighbors being on there.
Yeah.
That takes some time. So from a strategy perspective as a startup, our plan is to really get our community going locally, and then find a way of telling that story so that other communities might all try and kind of get it on together.
Yeah.
But, you know, if most of your listeners or podcast watchers are in your area, I mean, please feel free to get 20 friends and join together and get it working in the community. Because it really is a network effect. It gets better the more people that are on it. But that being said, it can work for the individual. So, like, say you're at home because you're furloughed and maybe you don't know if you're going to go back to work, right?
Yeah.
really hard to job hunt right now because you can't really go in for an interview, right? I mean, I know people are video interviewing, but
yeah, it's tough.
the availability is low, right?
Yes.
So, like, this would be a great time where you could get on, you could basically create your profile and your service listing. And we did build, released only a couple weeks ago, an external share. So you could share that out to Facebook or via email or text or actually any other communications platform and say, hey, this is how you access my services. And, you know, you don't need a website. You don't need to sign up with Square and your own payment system and build Shopify. Like, we have all that kind of built in a basic form for you. So, yeah, it works now.
That is amazing, man. And so we will definitely be spreading the word here, and I trust the listeners will spread the word too about Jobbertunity. And
so here's a weird thing. Like, the goal is twofold. Like, the goal is partially I think that the economy is changing anyway, but I think entrepreneurship, even if you're going to have a regular full-time job, but at some point in I think most people's careers are going to have some kind of side hustle or maybe work for themselves for a while. I think it's a great experience. It can stabilize your income a little. You know, maybe you try it and you find out you don't like it. So I wanted to make it easy for people to try entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think that our economy is right now set up globally or with a lot of big corporations is inherently somewhat unstable. And so to encourage more local small business activity, I think stabilizes an economy. Maybe it's not as necessary in big cities, but like, I'm in a college town, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I have friends that are in towns that have a dominant industry, right? And if that industry takes a hit, like, there goes the town.
Yeah.
The idea that, well, what do you do with that? And I was building for this future where I thought there was going to be a lot more automation and robots, and, you know, there'd be less employment anyway. So I was like, well, what do we do? And my answer to that is, well, we get creative, right? And I think that people inherently will be able to find something that they can offer their community of value. You might not hit it on the first thing you put out there, right?
Yeah.
But if you sort of make a Venn diagram of like what I'm good at, what I actually enjoy doing, and what other people want, if you can find the intersection of those three things, like, that's where you want to kind of work out your entrepreneurial effort. Something that, you know, brings you joy in doing to some degree, at least you're good at, you know, confidence in, and other people, it makes them happy and it helps them.
And I like that picture that you drew with the Venn diagrams. You know, just really be finding that intersection point of, like you said, what I'm good at, and what I like to do, and then what services can I provide for people, and that's a perfect way to start finding another source of income for you as well. You know. And I think this time more than ever is a time for creativity and for people to go out and try different things. I mean, what else are we doing? You know, take advantage of this time. We just talked, and we had mentioned all the bad things that had happened, but use this time to do something good, you know? So I love this idea, and I said I'm in Dallas, but I'm in like a smaller suburb of Dallas, and so there's a big community of local restaurants and shops and stuff. We have a main street, you know, like one of those types of towns, and so it's a really cool feel, but it's kind of scary for this time too. And so I love this whole idea of just kind of shopping local and supporting local businesses. And so when my wife and I have ordered and done like we always do contactless stuff, but you know, like we'll go to like the family-owned restaurants before we go to like a restaurant like Chili's, or we're trying to be more intentional with where we do our business. And so But yeah, and there's so many different things to consider with this. But I mean, for those people who are furloughed or have lost their jobs, I mean, this is the perfect time to start looking or thinking of another opportunity for money or looking for a new job. I mean, getting yourself ready. And I mean, do you have any tips for people like that who are maybe looking for a new job? What should they be considering?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, since the app's called Jobbertunity, I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Job search, like,
well, kind of, yeah.
The idea of creating job and opportunity, where one side is creating opportunity and the other side is bringing expertise. But I mean, in terms of the regular job hunt, right?
Yeah.
I have always personally leaned towards, I went to grad school a couple years back, and there was, everybody in grad school is business school, is at first has to get an internship. So there's this big scramble to do that. And then immediately the next year, then you're trying to get a job, right? So you're going through that process. And I find it really depressing, honestly.
It's brutal.
It's not fun. And at one point, I got so frustrated, like sending stuff up in, web forms, that I said, you know what? I'm just going to call everybody I know that has a job that I think is awesome, and ask them to go out to lunch with me, and just ask them about how they got into the thing that they're doing, right? And at the time I was coming out with an MBA, but I was really interested in organizational psychology. So folks that were doing like leadership and group dynamic and team building stuff, which are really fun people to have lunch with.
Yeah.
And HR, but technology and sales, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. But what I realized was I wasn't going and saying, hey, do you have a job for me? Because a lot of them didn't, right?
Yeah.
But going and having a conversation with somebody about them, but also something that I'm learning something and enjoying the time, did open them up to being like, oh yeah, here's this, I was 29, 28 something at the time. Here's this young, ambitious person who's getting a degree and out in the job world. Now they left that conversation thinking about, well, who do I know that I could refer them to?
Yeah.
Right? Even without me necessarily saying, hey, do you know anyone you could refer to me to? I do need a job, right? Now, it might be a little hard to have lunch with people right now, but it might not be that hard to go through your LinkedIn network, right, or your Facebook network, or whatever, however you keep your contacts, right, and say, let me just reach out to some people that I respect and I think they have interesting careers, and see if they'll do a Zoom meeting with me, right? And it doesn't have to be a direct ask. It can be like, hey, I just want to know about your career journey. Right now I'm about to have to make a change in mine. Right? Yeah. And I'm looking for inspiration. And it's a soft way of creating a network. And I think that might lead to other people thinking, well, gee, if there's an opening in my company, now
let me see what I can do. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I of all the years that I've had of like job searching and stuff, and I mean, I've been a teacher for like 7 years now, but nobody ever that was never something that was said to me. I wish would have been said earlier. So thank you for sharing that wisdom, man. That's awesome. Man, and shoot, time has flown by, but I have one final question for you. And that is, what is a lesson or truth that you feel everyone should know?
Man, we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Let me give you two answers.
Okay.
The first one is a little bit conceptual, a little nerdy, political sciencey, but I think that I think we have a great country, and I think that it was amazingly constructed. But the founders of this country were all business people or farmers, and the structure of our legal system is pro-business, right?
Yeah.
There's whether it's pro-big business or little business, but the yeoman farmer stuff is still in there, and I think that if you haven't started your own business or done a side hustle, you should consider it, because our society, in a way, is designed for entrepreneurship in a way that other societies aren't. So not just for the tax benefits, like there's a lot of us going there. But consider entrepreneurship if you haven't. Is so the truth is, if you didn't realize, our legal and tax structure is designed for businesses. It is.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And what to do with that knowledge. But more importantly, and this is sort of going to contradict my big message of go out there and do your side hustle. Ultimately, though, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's still about what's really, truly important. So when I look at entrepreneurship, it's not just about, hey, this is the way to make more money. It's about a path of self-discovery and individual freedom. And so, yes, go out there and do it, but no, it's not all about the money. So there's my two truths.
Yeah. No, I like that. And my last couple comments here is that, I think what you're doing speaks volumes about it. It's not just about the money. It's about in search of finding something you enjoy doing, something that brings you, happiness. Like, because if it was, you said you were at a job that you were making quite a bit of money, and, you wouldn't have left that if it was about the money, So, well, I would imagine, here I am putting words in your mouth, but from what I understood...
Yeah, you heard correctly.
And so I think that's something for us to consider, is that it really isn't all about the money. For some people, maybe, okay, touche, hats off to you. But for those that are maybe looking for something, that's what a side hustle's for. It leads you, and a side hustle is what led me to do this podcast. I love doing this podcast. And so it's just, you never know where these creative little ventures could take you, and Jobbertunity can help you expand on that, So, man, I want to thank you so much, Matt, for being a guest on the show today.
This has been a pleasure. I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I got a lot out of it, and you've said a lot of good things that I'm going to sign off, and I have a lot to think about now. Like, it's crazy. So, but thank you to all the listeners out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy during this time of COVID, and staying in contact with, well, not contact, like, but like staying in touch with people. It's crazy, like, all those terms have to deal with, like, almost like being around people, but staying in communication with people, so during this time. And so thank you guys for tuning in, and if y'all are entrepreneurs, if you think you have that itch, please download that app, Jobbertunity. Give it a shot. Tell your friends about it. Share it. That's how these good ideas spread, is just by word of mouth. So, and if you were listening and you're like, man, my friend could really benefit from something that was said on here, or hearing about Jobbertunity, please share this podcast with them so they can hear it too. You could be the difference. You could make the difference in somebody else's life. So, as always, if you only learn to do one thing, y'all, learn to make a difference. And thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah.